Hi, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog. I'm finishing up my fourth reach pocket scarf. The sides of my pocket have been seamed here and here, and now I'm ready to secure the top of the pocket to the wrong side of the scarf. I'm not concerned about anything falling out of this pocket top when I wear my scarf, but I would like to tack down the edges so it doesn't flop around or catch on anything. And it will help make the pocket more inconspicuous. In real life, I'll be attaching this pocket top with the same yarn that I used to seam the side of the pocket where it attaches to the scarf. But today, I'll be using a piece of contrasting yarn to make things easier to see. Let's get started. Because this scarf has a stitch pattern that's more involved than just stockinette or garter, doing any sort of inconspicuous stitch by stitch join to attach the pocket to the scarf would be quite tedious and maybe not worth the effort. So instead, I'm going to use landmarks in my knitting pattern to align my stitches from the pocket to the scarf, and I'm going to tack instead of join. And I'll be tacking the pieces together on the wrong side of the fabric, right at the top of every one of these knit columns. To make sure that everything was aligned, I counted up the garter ridges on the side that I seamed, counted up the same number of ridges on the pocket and the scarf on the other side, and connected them with a locking stitch marker so that after I tack across, everything is lined up and looks nice and neat. My piece of yarn that I'll be using in real life is attached already right here. I brought my demonstration yarn up through the same hole so that we can get started. Now let's zoom in so we can take a nice close look as I'm stitching across. I'm already attached the pocket to the scarf here at the side where my seam is. So now I'm just going to go through these bound off stitches and I'm going to go right across the top. So I'll come up through one of those bound off stitches. And then the next one. And then this third one, I am at the top of one of those knit columns. So that's my cue to know that now it's time for me to tack the pocket to the scarf right there. So I'll pull the yarn through. I'm going to find that same column of stitches here that's right next to the garter ridge. I'm going to go under both legs of one of those stitches in that column, pull the yarn through, and then I'll go across to the next column of knits. So I'm just going right across the top of the pocket, those on the bound off edge. Go through one, and then two, and then up through that third one. And again, I'm at the top of a knit column. So that is where I'm going to tack things together. I'll go over to the next knit column on my scarf, go under two legs of that knit stitch, and pull the yarn through. And then across to the next column. And you may notice here as I am working, I'm not pulling things together super tight. It's a lot easier to tighten things up at the end than to loosen them. So I'll make sure that my tension is nice and even when I get to the end of my join. So I got to the top of that next knit column, and now I'll just tack things down by going under 2 legs of the adjacent column of knits and the scarf. And then I'll continue across until my entire pocket top is tacked down. And then I'll do some adjustments to my tension. I've only worked partway across the pocket top because I'll be removing this yarn later so that I can finish my scarf with the real yarn. But once you've tacked all the way across, you can tighten things up to make them look a little bit neater because right now it looks kind of sloppy. And tightening things up will also minimize any puckers you have here at the top where the pieces are tacked together. So I'm going to work in the same direction that I was stitching. And I'm just going to use my yarn needle or a knitting needle to just lift strand by strand and tighten things up across until I get to that first tacked stitch. Once I get to the first tacked stitch, I can skip over to the next tacked stitch, lift up that leg, and when I pull, everything across that bound off leg or that bound off edge tightens up. So I didn't have to do it stitch by stitch. So again, I'm going to go across to the tack, lift up that leg a little bit, then use my fingers just to pull through. Everything tightens up across the pocket top. Go to the next tack, lift. Oops, I missed that one. And once you've tightened everything up, you can see, even though I've used this very highly contrasting yarn, it is barely visible. And things look much neater here across the top of the pocket. And we'll flip things over and let's look at the right side. And on the right side, that tacking is completely invisible. You cannot see the yarn that I used to tack at all on the right side of the fabric, even though I used that very dark red contrasting yarn. I hope you enjoyed learning how to tack the top of the pockets for the 4th Ridge pocket scarf. This pattern is available in the shop section of thechilidog.com. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!